Jump on the big screen. There we go. That looks good. Here we go. In 3, 2, and 1. Welcome, Eagles, to another edition of TradCat Night special guest interview right here on the TradCat.org website. Folks, today is 11/16/23. I hope you all are having a very wonderful and blessed day, as always. We continue to keep the shows moving along here. Quick scheduling update. Dr. Anthony Stein was scheduled to join us this morning, but he had a family emergency, so we're just going to add him to the list tomorrow for shows. So we'll have Dr. Anthony Stein tomorrow. Dr. Kendra Becker will be joining us. First-time guest Charles Radjiclaw. I'm not really overly familiar with him. I know he's affiliated with Sophia Institute Press. We got him on the show. Rex Mayer from the League Project. I am scheduled to do a media appearance here at noon with Rex, although I haven't heard from him. So if you go on over to the League Project, I'm not sure if Rex does his stuff live. I really don't know, but I might be on over there live at noon with Rex. If we are doing it today. And Rex will be on the show tomorrow, on my show tomorrow. So before I hand it over to Dr. Paul Cottrell joining us right here, we're going to extend this show here a little bit, give Paul some extra time. We're going to first discuss the Israeli war, Middle East, what's happening there, but I've got quite a few other areas hopefully we can get into over this next 45 minutes to an hour. Before I hand over to Paul, though, gentle reminder, follow TradCat across all major social media outlets. Censorship is on the increase again. This is part and parcel why I'm behind a paywall. TikTok, which to me was the place where there was least censorship going on and least algorithm disruptions. I actually was, for the first time, pulled off of a live show on any platform for the first time Sunday, and it was on TikTok. So they're halfway through it, they literally just booted me right off, and I got suspended for a week. So we'll be able to do a TikTok live, so at least this Sunday night. Who knows? It's ridiculous out there. Don't forget about the consultation program. I talked to a few people yesterday. Please take advantage of it. It's a great way to help support this outlet, for me to get to know you too as well. A lot of people want to talk relocation. A lot of people talking prepping, theological questions. I'll even try to help again. I'm not a financial advisor, but I can only tell you what I'm doing with my money, and that's keeping it real close here, because I am expecting, like so many other people on the economic side of things, an implosion here soon. This is one of the areas I was hoping we could talk to Paul about, because he's quite proficient in this area too, as well as banking and finance and the economy. Since the last time Paul and I talked, there's been some major bank glitches. Citizens Bank down in Iowa went down. Pinnacle having issues with West Banco. This is the second time with West Banco. So we'll get into that eventually somewhere down the road. During this conversation with Paul. Don't forget about the recently Johnny TradCat exclusive movie available on Vimeo. It's on this prolific mystic, which foretold so many things in the church, including the upcoming 3 Days of Darkness reference, both in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, obviously, Matthew 24-29. We do believe that event is coming probably for me, the next decade. I see that happening. So I put that movie together. It's still going strong. Then you've got, don't forget to send your special guest suggestions. I'm booking now for next month. I have rebooked Dr. Peter McCullough will be finally rejoining us after a month layoff. We'll see what he's up to. We've got Aaron Sang from TraddyBox going to be joining us. And what else we got going on? Well, just tell me. I'm looking for new suggestions, really. We get some new people on the program. Appreciate the general donations from yesterday. Daniel M., Benjamin E., and John D. Will W. too as well. So again, please help out, folks. Ever rising operational expenses here. I'm trying to do my best to keep doing 3, 4, 5 shows a day, Monday through Saturday. No one in alternative media doing as much as I'm doing. Well, the last few days have been a bit slow. We're hopefully picking it back up here in the not so distant future. And what else? Last but not least, sponsors. We're looking for sponsors. Here at TradCat, again, I'll work with you and your budget. I know these are trying times. Maybe that's another area Paul and I can get into, because a lot of statistics out there indicating families are putting the basics on credit card now, which is never a good sign when you're talking the economy. But you got John Dean, who's the man promoting OLRL.org. He's asking for prayers for Sheila Dean, his mom, who recently passed away, as well as Mrs. Bowers. And there's one other person that John asked me to mention. And John, I know you listen to all these shows. Email that to me, buddy, because I know you sent it to me somewhere. I can't find it amidst all my messages. He's got one other person in particular that he works with that is in need of prayers. But John, send me via email that name. That way I have it in front of me. Don't forget Nick Fluke Catholic Faction Book Across the Rubicon, available on Amazon, paperback or Kindle format. You got Chris Gotti, Radical Catholic, Souls Like Mine. Please remember those who have gone before us. Remember the dead. It's not just an early November thing or an every Sunday thing for us Catholics. It's an everyday thing. This is we're affiliated with the Catholic Land Movement, the Wheelers family out on the East Coast. They've been racing dairy goats for the past 10 years. They've got some for sale. Make a lifelong friend in Ashford and Wayne. They're going to help you with the necessary support in regards to the raising of breeding and goats too that you'll get from them. Then you've got 247rosary.com. Play the traditional rosary every half hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And sign up for the Wednesday Night Rosary Call program by contacting Joe Lizak at pray at 247rosary.com. Having said that, take it on over, Paul. Where do you want to begin? I mean, do you want to start with the Israel war? Do you want to start on the banking side? The banking is pretty big too, but it definitely takes a backseat to what's happening there in the Middle East.
Well, I mean, we can talk about the banking first and then go into, because this is going to be a longer show. We can, dovetail
we got
into
over
Israel.
45 minutes. We'll do about 45, 50 minutes.
Yeah, so the banking, obviously there was problems with transactions with many different banks. I knew quite a few people that had problems with Bank of America. People need to realize that the Federal Reserve is building an infrastructure called FedNow that allows for clearing of transactions almost instantaneously between banks. Before there were a few day clearing, So if someone deposits something, the banks had a few days, 2-3 days to actually clear. Sometimes it would clear earlier, but there's going to be this instantaneous clearing that's going to take place. Now, people, I have a really unique perspective on this, and people probably will disagree with me, but that's okay because most people disagree with me. We have banking holidays. All right. Now, if you historically look at the reason why we have banking holidays, they've been always because of a worry of a bank run. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So and once it gets institutionalized, then there's a memory loss of exactly why there was a bank holiday, and it just stays that way. So what it did was it allowed banks to make negotiations behind the scenes, especially during the weekend, to shore up funds between banks, because there's interbank lending through LIBOR. And then there's also the backstop from the Federal Reserve. And that is exactly what happened during Lehman. There was a crunch for cash because of the asset-backed mortgages were starting to fail. And Lehman needed a lot of money, and no one was willing to lend it to them. So the interbank lending mechanism failed. The Federal Reserve didn't, especially the Federal Reserve of the Bank of New York, didn't want to bail them out. And they were trying to force over the weekend other banks to buy out Lehman, and it failed. That was the big collapse, right? So people need to realize that my point here is that instantaneous clearing is not necessarily a good idea, and that sometimes you need a little bit of fat, a little bit of friction in commerce, so things are slowed down a little bit. Sometimes you need a speed bump to make sure the kids in the school area don't get run over by a car, right? And sometimes I think clearing at a slower rate is better. Now, the reason why they want to do instantaneous clearing is because it's moving to a digital currency and protected by, quote, blockchain. Unfortunately, that blockchain is going to tag your transactions, and the IRS will be able to know exactly how you spend your money, when and how, and this will eventually move into maybe potentially real-time point-of-sale taxation, federal and state level taxation, not just sales tax. So this is an ongoing development of an infrastructure that's going to give us less freedom I suspect, just applying chaos theory, that because it's quicker, that we may actually end up having a quicker crisis. Just like how during the olden days, when they didn't have bank holidays, the bank runs became quicker. Now, it's different because during the bank runs of yesteryear, you could go to the bank and pull out your money. Well, in a digital currency world, where there's no real cash or coinage, then it's hard to just pull your money out and put it in, underneath your mattress. But what people may do is pull out money and have it move into some sort of other institution, either their own trading account or move it out of move it out of JP Morgan, put it into a credit union or vice versa. So this would, and because of instantaneous clearing, this may exacerbate a different kind of bank run.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Now, what do you make of this? We'll spend as much time as we can on the banking side here. During October, December quarter from 2023, the Treasury expects to borrow $776 billion in privately held net marketable debt. What does this mean? And maybe we can get your take on the topic of bail-ins. A lot of my people who study this, certainly more proficiently than I do, are indicating that bank bail-ins could be next. I mean, instead of maybe the excuse will be used, okay, well, we can't borrow from the reserve anymore. We'll just start pulling money out of people's accounts, which they can do. As far as I know and understood, I've had John Rubino, other people on the show, Lynette Zangs, and everyone else, they can't do this. A lot of people don't realize that. But what's your take on it? Will it get that drastic? Or?
Well, I do think that the United States government is way over their spending limit. Most people, have a certain spending limit, and we're way over it. And
can you imagine if we spent like the Federal Reserve, like if each one of us were to just live according to how our government was, just letting money go to Ukraine and every other country, and then just spend as much as they do. My goodness. I mean, I guess that's why we have Chapter 7 and 11 bankruptcies and stuff like that. But they just, no one can seem to do a budget. I mean, if they can't do a budget, we're in big trouble, right?
Well, there is, there's two types of budgets. There is a deficit budget and in government, a paid budget, right? And unfortunately, we're not even passing a budget, let alone a balanced budget. So, you can have budgets that have deficits in it. As long as they're short term and there's a mechanism to pay for that deficit in the long run, and it makes the society more productive, such as building up infrastructure and getting a society more educated, more skilled, not necessarily more educated, but more skilled. And then you have a more productive society, and you can get out of that deficit situation and move into a balanced budget or even a surplus. So there's surplus budgets, there's deficit budgets, and balanced budgets. The problem that we have in the United States is that we have this omnibus bill concept that's been around for quite a while, and they just throw everything in it, and there's just a lot of pork, and we're spending too much money. Now, let's take the 50,000 foot level. Something very similar was happening in the bond market with UK during around World War I, maybe just before World War I, and that is it's an overextension of their finances and over an extension of their hegemonic power in the world, and their empire started to crumble. And it just so happened that that was a catalyst. It's not the only catalyst, but a catalyst for World War I that leads to a decline of the British Empire. So the United States is very similar. We have hundreds of bases all over the world. We cannot afford it. We have a declining infrastructure in the United States. And then you add in these, what I'll call I've been using the term ultra-liberal on my shows. the ultra-liberal in the United States, where it's the destruction of the family unit, the destruction of economics, the push of socialism, especially at the top 20 universities, and maybe even going all the way as far as communism. And you have this devolving of society. Well, that's not productive. Here's and this is going to kind of dovetail into the Israeli issue. You hear a lot of people out there that are saying, save the children in the Middle East because of the war. These same protesters, ultra-liberal protesters, are also promoting the enshrining in constitutions at the state level, such as Ohio State, where it enshrines the protection of an abortion. Now, since 1970s, we've had over 60 million abortions in the United States. There have been more children that have died because of ultra-liberal policy for abortion rights than anything that has ever happened in the Middle East. Ever. Ever. Right. So when you see these bleeding heart, ultra liberals trying to push the emotional fallacy button, the reality of the situation is their policies have killed more children than anyone on the planet.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Yeah, we just passed on that issue number 1, which is crazy. Here in Ohio, I think it was Kentucky and Virginia too as well. We also legalized marijuana. It's not even just that. I mean, it's like abortion, it's the drug, and in some areas prostitution is becoming legalized. Like we're turning way more left, unfortunately.
Exactly. Well, and I just wanted to add. The reason why this dovetails into finances is that if you have a society that isn't strong on family, if you have a society that isn't strong on ethics, such as not having a society go into a retail store and totally fleece it by stealing, right? If you have a society where you have people on mopeds shooting elderly individuals on the street, then you're going to have a society that's not productive, that's going against the precepts of the Bible and the Torah, and you're going to have a society that is going to end up crumbling. And don't be surprised that there is this continued, because the society isn't productive, you have to issue more bonds and it becomes more expensive, and have this empire that has to be funded, and eventually it starts to crumble.
Now, you think that would be the excuse used once the chaos starts? Do you think that would be the excuse used by the government to say, okay, since you guys couldn't do it the right way, quote unquote, the capitalist way, hey, we're going to roll out this Fed now. We're going to cap you at like $1,000 a month. We're going to monitor all your transactions and basically be Big Daddy, be Big Brother. We've got to babysit you guys now. Do you think that would be an excuse used by the government?
Well, I think it's I don't think there's just one data point or one variable that's going to push this in motion. And I'm not so sure. I'll even go on a limb here, and I'm not so sure it's really of human decision. And the reason why I'm saying that is that I feel, Eric, that we're going through a tumultuous time, and that we're going through a metaphysical event. All right. Some people would call it divine. Some maybe call it a messianic situation. But there is something that is very spiritual and very metaphysical that's happening. And that there are people that are what I call the sensitives, that can feel it before it happens to the majority of the public. And the reason why they're sensitive is because they follow certain precepts of the Bible or the Torah or of their religion, and they may not be perfect people, but they're closer to.
At least they're trying, right?
They're trying, and they're a little bit. I'll call them purer. Their soul is brighter, I guess, is the grace that compared to people that aren't trying at all and are very egotistic. The United States ethos is really egoism. It's not utilitarian.
Oh, for sure.
It's
egoism. Self-love. Yeah.
Right. There was a commercial that just before we went on live, there was a commercial playing behind me that was saying, "Oh, this is the perfect time for you to buy yourself a gift for the holidays."
Or marry yourself. See, these people are marrying themselves.
Right. I just, it's so when and there is something very, very Kabbalistic, right? When you give someone a gift, right? There is, there's a lot of spiritual energy in that, and or giving charity to people that are in need. There's a lot of spiritual energy in that, and we have a society that's very egotistic. So when you have a society that, on average, ends up becoming more and more egotistical, more and more moving away from the family unit, more and more becoming just a glutton, right? And hedonistic. Don't be surprised that bad things come, and those bad things could be of health, of wealth, of security.
Right.
And so I think we're moving in. And this is why I think what's happening in Israel is really important, because, you and I, we have these channels, right? And I would say that we're kind of the alternative media or alternative news or whatever you want to call it, podcast. But there's different terms, but we're not mainstream, right? And I think people need to start realizing we're moving into a different age, and that age isn't necessarily. Of course, it's the humans have caused some of the strife, some of the negative. The negative things that are coming from above. But I think that now the divine, I'm trying to be generic with my terms, but so I'm inclusive, for everybody. But there is a divine presence or a divine will to move things in a certain way. And us egoists, us Americans, right, think that we are in charge, and we're not in charge. And I think that we're seeing that we can the best that we can do, and a lot of people may disagree with me, but I think the best that we can do is look into ourselves and realize that we all can improve and be better people, and then perhaps at a global level, if that does happen, that there will be a blessing that comes. But I suspect that there's going to be a lot of egoism, self-reliance, and what's going to happen is there's going to be a major curse that's coming down. And you're starting to see in the news this, what I call the disentanglement. The disentanglement is that you have a society that has a lot of these ultra-liberals, and I don't have a really good term for this, but I'm just using ultra-liberal and conservative. But you can use different terms, but basically there's a negative and positive force that is commingled, right, in the society. And the event that's going on in Israel is now is now allowing for the groups to be disentangled, and now it's easier, and it's charged, right, because you have a strong positive force and a strong negative force in their respective groups, right? What will happen is that now you can see who is the good guys, who's the bad guys, or who's the positive, who's the negative, who's the conservatives, who are the ultra liberals, who are for family, who's not, right? You can divide it in many different dimensions. Who's for, trying to be more spiritual, who's not, who's anti-spiritual or anti-God, right? And you're going to see this, you'll be able to see that on the negative side, what I call the ultra liberals, is that they're going to start eating their tail. Their logic will start to eat themselves. Perfect example is the abortion thing that we just brought up. Another thing is that you have these individuals in New York and in DC, right, that are protesting, being pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, and then all of a sudden they start to realize that Sharia law is actually antithetical to Christian theology. They would kill Christians. So eventually the Christians are going to be attacked, but they don't realize that. They think this is just, the point I'm making is that the ultra-liberal is going to actually be a useful idiot for the terrorists. Just like the masses were the useful idiot to promote communism, to promote Marxism.
Yeah, think about it, Paul. Like here in our Western society, we've built things up to a point where, I mean, we can have things in the now, in the present moment, at our fingertips. Like you said, we can go out and do something stupid, have sex outside of marriage, and have a kid and have an abortion. You know, that same very day. You've got fast food, right? And right at our fingertips. No one wants to sit back. I mean, largely due to putting a lot of time, and I know you put a lot of time into it. I don't know about you, but every once in a while, I got to go to a restaurant and do something because it's just becomes a time thing. But everything right at our fingertips, like you said, everything's becoming more. People becoming more and more obsessed with themselves, self-love. Think about social media themselves. See all these girls posting like 17 pictures a day. Like, come on, like, you know, find something better to do at your job. But it's all coming to a point here, like you said, with your spidey senses. Like, we all kind of, no matter what religion you're coming from, I know Paul's Jewish, obviously we're Catholic here, but we're all kind of sensing the same thing as we head into the year of the dragon, 2024. Think about potential economic collapse. Think about the next pandemic, which might be rolled out soon too. We're getting less and less resources, so there's a play on food. How about oil? They're talking about oil prices going up. We obviously started talking about World War III. The natural disasters are picking up. Like it's like the scripture says, the rocks are crying out. Like what are you guys doing here? You guys are on the wrong path. And all I'm saying, once that bubble pops here in the United States and the Western world with the economic crash, and there's like, at least to some degree, there's some kind of order, because I know there's a move for the defund of the police, but like once you kind of move them out of the way, and people are just like, oh, hell no, it's just every man for himself, the law of the jungle prevails. You know what I mean? And I think can be a danger on the other side, I guess is what I'm saying, Paul, with the New World Order, that they say, okay, you guys are not getting it here. We have to install our version of order, which is not true Christian order. At least we wouldn't look at it like that. And that's when it becomes like purely communist or like a neo-feudalist society. So they're kind of like capitalizing on people's egoism, I guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
But like you said,
yeah, I see what you're saying. You know, I'm taking a perspective that's a little bit different. I agree with you, the whole 1984, we have to worry about it. But we're moving into a pre-Messianic age. I'm not sure if we'll see the Messianic age. I don't think so. But I could be wrong, right? But I do know this. We seem to be a stepping stone towards that. Now, in the Old Testament and the New Testament, there are certain things that are supposed to take place, right? Not all of them have taken place yet for the Messianic era. But there are points in time where certain things align. It may not usher in the Messianic era, but it's definitely a wake-up call that things are starting to get closer. And one of them, I'm not sure if we did this on your show last time, but, you know, Jews just went through a very spiritual event starting from Rosh Hashanah all the way through Simchas Torah. And we did not blow the shofar on the first night of Rosh Hashanah to silence the great prosecutor, or some people would interpret that as Satan, because it was on the Sabbath. And once you go through Rosh Hashanah, then there's this 10-day countdown for Yom Kippur, which is Judgment Day, right? And then right after Yom Kippur, there's Sukkot, where you live in the hut, right? And then right after that is Simchas Torah. The event in October 7th in Israel was on Simchas Torah. And so the point I'm making is that this holiday season that transpired was the inability to silence the Satan, or the great prosecutor, and that there is a judgment of mankind, and especially of Israel, because there's a lot of ultra-liberals in Israel that are not following the precepts of the Bible or the Torah. You know, because it's not everybody in Israel is Jewish. There's Christians too. And, you know, and that there is this kind of curse that's coming down, and everyone's being judged, especially Israel on this, all right? But if people like start to realize, well, wait a minute, you know, I just upset Daddy, you know, maybe I should become a little bit better person, you know, and people are starting to wake up here. So as we're moving into these events, Eric, I think that there is more of a divine hand in this. And that during this month of Kislev, all right, Jews are on the lunar calendar, not the solar calendar. And we just moved into Kislev, all right? So this month is a very, very spiritual month, Kabbalistically, all right? And that if you want to get more, if you want to do repentance, if you want to try to become a better person, this is the month to do it, right? But if you don't get that extra boost of power, that boost of energy, of spiritual energy to become a better person. This is not just for Jews. This is for everybody, right? So these next 28 days or so are going to be a very important spiritual time period. Now, I've been telling people on my show and others that are sensitives that I have been seeing and I probably have mentioned this behind the scenes with you, I have been sensing something very ominous from August 1st to November 30th, all right? And that it's a very dark cloud, and it's the people that I know personally that are close to me, friends, family, right? That there's a dark cloud and bad things are going to happen to them. And it has happened, all right? I'm not going to go into the details, but it has happened. Bad things, life-changing things. But I have also sensed that after 11:30, that cloud will then now move over to the wider world. And there's going to be serious pain coming to the ones that are not sensitive. All right? The sensitive ones get it first, between August and the 31st, or the August 1st to November 30th. After November 30th, the rest of the world is, and I'm sensing something. I know this. People are going to say I'm crazy. I don't really care. But I'm pretty damn accurate on a lot of things that I say. The point here I'm making is that November 30th so happened. I just learned this just a few days ago. November 30th is the switchover to to the 19th of Kislev. The 19th of Kislev is a major Kabbalistic, Hasidic day, all right, that ushers in a very strong spiritual power. I'm telling you, something big is coming on December 1st, or something just slightly after December 1st that is going to rock the fucking world. And I'll tell you, dude, I'm telling you, it is, and this is why I'm not falling into the 1984 category. I was in the 1984 category. That's under the construct of human intervention. What is happening here, Eric, is not human. It's of a spiritual power that is far beyond we could imagine. And mankind needs to start realizing that we have in place now certain things that where it can go really well or it can go really bad. Like, for example, we were talking about biological weapons on many shows, right? Iran, I've had classes with people that were from Iran. They're very smart people, especially the engineers. They have the capability of making biologics, all right? What if they use biologics and unleashed it on the world? Everyone keeps on thinking it's going to be nuclear. And I'm not so sure it's going to be nuclear. But they did. Hamas, Hezbollah, and leaders in Iran did say that something big is coming to the Western world. And I think that, I'm not sure if it's of this biological origin, radiological origin, chemical, I don't know. But they're also smart and they're also religious. And, these Ayatollahs, they also have access to Kabbalistic texts that go not just to the Christian side and the Jewish side, but to the Islamic side. Kabbalism is not just a Jewish thing. It's a component, a higher level component of these religions, right? It's kind of like the machine language of the religions, all right? And it's very esoteric, but they have access to this stuff too. They know this, so they're sensing that there's a powerful situation that's coming up, in Kislev that they can tap into. So I'm telling you, we're in a very, very precarious and dangerous situation to assume that it's going to be the events of humans that are going to be able to get us out of this situation. And I think it's really, I don't want to sound too religious, but it's starting to seem that way. People need to start to realize that to change the events that are happening, we're going to have to look within us and how do we make ourselves better, and within that we will be able to make the society better and calm the storm, because there is a very strict judgment that is going to be taking place in this world, and you're going to start seeing wealth, health, and security starting to just evaporate. Some people that thought that I got a ton of money in the bank and I'm so secure, I'm in the United States and blah, 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 I have tons of food in my refrigerator. It's all going to evaporate.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. No, I mean, obviously as a Christian, I would say it, slightly different, but I don't think we would, I mean, on the points that you made there, I wouldn't have a whole lot to disagree with. I mean, it's very interesting that you mentioned December the 1st. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the Dark Winter script starts December the 1st. Are you aware of that? That exercise back in 2001?
No.
And as a part of that Dark Winter script, there's a biological weapon released, and it's blamed on Russia/Iran, and it's going to be smallpox. We talked about this before.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's because the interesting thing, Eric, because I don't know about the dark script, but I do know some of the history of the Hasidic movement. It's going all the way back to the 1700s. In the 1700s, there was a very important book that was published on the 19th of Kislev. All right, I think it was 1765. I might be wrong on the exact date, but it was the 1700s. That is an extremely powerful date. It happens this year because it's lunar. It doesn't coincide all the time, but it just so happens to be on December 1st. And I'm telling you, there's a spiritual energy that is going to that's going to be unleashed. And if you are prepared, you can absorb the energy. If you're not prepared, this powerful thing is going to kill you, or it's going to destroy your worldview. And so there's going to be people that are going to be very fearful, and there's going to be others, just like what it says in Psalms. I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil. Well, that exactly means that you're walking in, not because you see evil, you actually see good through all the destruction that is happening, because you're able to absorb the energy that's coming from the 19th of Kislev.
I'll explain this from, maybe we're on the same page here in terms of, there's actually a Catholic prophecy, I know you probably haven't heard this before, it's actually called the Warning. And it's a cosmic event wherein two stars collide and time is going to stop, kind of like Matrix-like. And you're going to be able to see your soul as God sees your soul, and it's sort of like an inner reflection, like, hey, I'm either, going to hell, or like I'm okay with God type of thing. So it's sort of like, you're kind of describing to me what sounds like this Catholic prophecy I've been talking about for a while. It's called the Warning, or Illumination of Conscience. Was talked about by certain saints in the Catholic Church, and I believe it's close. I'm not quite sure if it's this December, but I would say you probably won't escape the following December without it happening. Like, it's
interesting you bring this up. In the Zohar, I did a show on this, but in the Zohar is a Kabbalistic book, all right? And the Zohar is deep understanding of the different verses or certain parshas within the 5 books of Moses. So it's only of, to my knowledge, it's only of the Old Testament. I don't know of any New Testament Zohar. There might be, but I just don't know it. Now, in Numbers, in Balak, in Zohar, there's a page. It's 212b. All right, B meaning the back page. In the way Jews write books, it's A and B. The front page is A, the back page is B. So it's the same page number, but A and B. So on 212b in the Zohar for the Parsha of Balak in Numbers, all right, in the 5 books of Moses, it talks about an event that's supposed to take place on the 6th day, which is Friday, on the 6th month, all right, that's just Elul, and on the 25th day, all right, the problem is I can't find a date that actually coincides with the Zohar and on Friday. I can see a Monday, I can see a Saturday, I see a Wednesday in the calendars, going out. So I can't find that date. That's the 6th day, Friday, of the 6th month of the 25th of that month, which is strange. Now, I don't know if I'm assuming, because it's a Zohar, that it's lunar. It could be solar. And if it's solar, then someone told me that it was going to be in 2027. But, usually this stuff is in lunar, not solar, because it's coming from the perspective of the Hebrew counting. But the point here is that in the Zohar of that passage, it talks about on that day, there is a sign in Rome of a celestial event. All right. And that celestial event lasts for 70 days. And at the end of the 70th day is when the Messiah comes. So I don't know what that really means. I'm not wise enough in biblical study to know exactly what that means. But it does say in the Zohar on page 212b in Numbers for Balak that there is a 70-day countdown, and that first day starts on the 6th day, which is a Friday, on the 25th day of the month of the 6th month. Now, is that solar or lunar? I don't know. But it's really strange, and it talks about three walls being falling in Rome, and the ruler of the city or of the kingdom dies. So I mean, it's like and the United States has always been pictured as Rome. I wouldn't be surprised that Biden kicks the bucket.
There's I understand that argument, Rome or like a mini Babylon type of thing, but no, actually, it's in Catholic prophecy due to the sins of what's been happening in the Vatican. I know I've done your show and explained like what we're seeing on the Catholic side, and how these fake Catholics have taken over Francis, and the rest of them were certainly not following the Catholic, the Catholic religion. They're Marxists, they're Masons, they're fake Catholics called modernists. But it's actually in Catholic prophecy that Rome gets destroyed by agents of the Antichrist. I'm not sure if you're aware of that in Scripture. Well, it's found in Scripture and in Catholic prophecy. So Russia comes from the north and ransacks the Vatican and takes it over, and then Islam comes from the south. I'm kind of suspecting Erdogan is sort of like a revived Ottoman Empire. And I've seen some of the top Islamic leaders actually say they want to take Rome and the Vatican specifically by 2025. So I've been saying that now for years. It looks like we're on a countdown. And pay attention to Francis going over to do a détente or like kind of like a false peace treaty between Russia and Ukraine. Once you see that, then it's lights out. That's when the Russian blitzkrieg happens, according to Catholic prophecy. So we're still kind of waiting for that. But yeah, no, Rome's destruction was actually foretold by the early church fathers, all the early Catholic church fathers and apostles, that during the last that Rome would be ransacked by agents of the Antichrist or the Antichrist himself. So,
in the Zohar, it talks specifically of the 3 walls falling, and I don't know what that means though. There's 3 walls of the city that fall, and the king dies. And in my first interpretation is that if you have a citadel, then you're most likely it's enclosed, right? And that it's usually like a square. Right, or rectangular. It's 4 walls, or 5 walls, or 6 walls. Or, I guess technically you could have a triangle. That's 3 walls. But there's something about the 3 walls that just seems there seems to be a hint of maybe 3 actors coming in. That you're being attacked by 3 flanks.
Could it? You would know better. I don't come from that depth, from where you're coming from on that. So I don't know. Or maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. Maybe it's the Vatican Square. It loses one of its sides. I don't know.
But what's interesting about these events, right, is that you can almost see the daily reading of the Torah. There's daily reading and weekly parsha reading. Okay, so the weekly parsha reading of that week is playing out in Israel. When Noah, the story of Noah, is being read in the synagogue, in shul, that was when we were hearing the news that the potentiality of the Israelis flooding the tunnels to clear them out. We just went through a parsha talking about Abraham, having Ishmael and Isaac. So, and there's the parsha that we just went through was the death of last week, I believe it was last week, was the death of Sarah, all right? And the moving towards Esau and Jacob and the twins, and how Esau is a murderer, right? And I don't know if it's just representational bias that I'm seeing some sort of giraffe in the cloud system in the sky, but I swear it seems like biblically it's playing out that there's this war between Esau and Jacob and this battle for that Temple Mount. And, we're ushering in, because people need to, the liberals out there, they're going to say, well, this is all about occupation in Israel, and being mean to the Palestinians, and it's all about the settler dispute in the West Bank. And no, it's more than that. It's about that Temple Mount and the rebooting of a very old ancient system. And that's that Dome of the Rock isn't going to be there, and there's going to be when the Muslim community sees the dismantling, either forcefully or peacefully, of that Dome of the Rock, there's going to be an awful lot of strife. There's going to be a supercharged system that takes place, and I'm a person that kind of like wants to. I see kind of like sometimes messages, in media. Like, if you look at Al Jazeera, I think, Al Jazeera is playing right behind me right now. You look at the logo of Al Jazeera, it looks like a devil coming right out of a fire. These things, there's a projection. There's Esau and Ishmael have a mean streak, all right? There's a hairiness to them. There's a bestiality, aspect to them. There's a warring aspect to them. There's a killing aspect to them. And the Western societies need to wake up to this, because the people are being pulled, right? As I was saying, and our soul roots are moving into our respective positions, and they're going to be judged. Will the soul root of Jacob, or is it going to be the soul root of Esau? Because this battle of the twins in the womb of, I think it was Rebecca. It was Rebecca, wasn't it? This battle of the twins is happening in society right now. The twins are battling in the womb of the pre-Messianic age.
Yeah, you said a key word there a few minutes ago. Wake up, because we got these sleeper cells here in our country. That one of our sponsors here, Nick Flew, wrote a great book, Across Rubicon, which details kind of Catholic prophecy and how current events would play out. And he's really saying pay attention to New York City here, as well as I think we should, amongst other major cities. And I know since you're in that area, I just wanted to get your sort of feel for it. Are people talking about it? Like, ooh, man, like maybe we will be targeted. I remember seeing some crazy TikTok videos of some strange. It wasn't even packages, man. It was like, and it wasn't a box. It was something that almost looked like a movable luggage kind of thing, but it was like a big container that had a big X on it. And there was a station all over New York City. This one guy who I guess travels quite frequently. And I don't remember like what borough or whatnot off the top of my head. But he started alerting the police like, hey, I'm finding him on this street, I'm finding him on this street. So they finally got rid of him, but it was very suspicious looking. So everyone was sort of like, okay, is this like going to be like, is this like a bomb? Is it, like you said, a biological agent? But you got to think like New York City's got to be on the hit list for one of those BRICS nations, Iran specifically, probably. But what's the feel? Is like, do people even talk about this, or is this people just like laugh it off in the city if it's at all talked about?
Well, I think the veterans of New York, the ones that have lived here for quite a while and have gone through some tumultuous times like Sandy or the COVID crisis, even 9/11. They're battle hardened, and they're not too worried. They think it'll just pass. You have the newer crowd that has moved into New York that's all fearful, but there's always projection that goes in the media, right? Just like the projection of Al Jazeera's logo. I don't know of one Hollywood action film that hasn't destroyed New York. So I mean, it's always been hinted that New York was somehow, some way, going to be destroyed by man or by God. So or both at the same time.
Wasn't it Ghostbusters? They had a big marshmallow thing, like Statue of Liberty. Yeah. So even Ghostbusters, they had a marshmallow man.
No. I just like every single major action film or movie, or Marvel comic, or is this. New York's been destroyed 1,000 times. And it's always seemed to rise up from the ashes. But there is an element of, but all kidding aside, there is an element of Gotham in New York. And I think that the city is dying from within because of the lawlessness that's going on. So I think it's more like Gotham than the day after, where everything is, or even in Planet of the Apes, it was the Liberty statue was under the sand. Right?
Yeah.
So
it would be a great segue for your career change once you leave. You said you might be leaving, becoming a doctor or whatnot. You could just be like the new Batman. You got to think of a cool superhero name, though. You got to come up with a cool costume, but you can come save the day. Yeah,
I'll tell you, right. I think there is a waking up, though. You're bringing up a great point. There is a realization that some of the institutions that we've had in society are there's such a bias. Unfortunately, there are many doctors out there that bought into the dogma of medicine, of modern medicine, and that they thought that they were doing the right thing by treating certain patients a certain way. There were also others that were saying that it's not as the efficacy of the treatment isn't there, and that we should change the paradigm. But there were a lot of people that just were stuck in the dogma and didn't do it, or they were afraid to break away because of losing their license. So this spiritual energy that's coming is the realization that some of these dogmas that we've had in society, not just in medicine, but in many things, is starting to crumble. God is letting, this is what I mean by the ultra-liberal the snake will eat its tail. God is allowing us to see the fallacies in some of our institutions that we are leaning on. In Kislev, the month, from a Jewish perspective, anyone that wants to improve themselves, as long as they just lean on God, allow God to help you. All right, allow the Spirit of God to help you, and don't be reliant on government. Don't be reliant on these professional organizations. Just put all your chips on the divine. Then you're going to be protected, and you're going to be safe. And when you do walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you aren't going to fear any evil, and you're not going to be hurt. It's the ones that are leaning on some sort of profession, the ones that are leaning on a lot of money in the bank, The ones that are leaning on, well, I'm going to be safe and I'm going to be an isolationist in the United States, they're going to be hurt because their true protection is not of the divine. It's of some sort of materialism.
It's of material, yeah.
You know, so this spiritual energy that's coming on the 19th of Kislev, right, which is December 1st, right, and beyond, there's going to be these pulses of energy, these pulses of knowledge to people, right? And some people will be able to absorb it, and some people will not. And you're going to start seeing the fallacies start to crumble, right? You watch a lot of news because you do your shows, right? And you're very educated in what's going on in the world in many different categories.
Yeah.
And you're probably starting to see kind of like the crumbling of these institutions and of these biases happening in real time. It's fascinating to watch if you're a metadata analyst kind of.
Well, that's why they have to censor, because they know their bullshit is crumbling, and that's why they have to censor. Like I said, I got censored on TikTok talking about.
What was your show on TikTok, and why did they censor?
TikTok Live. Yeah, no, you could do like Facebook Live, or Instagram has a live.
No, but what was the content?
Current events and explaining things from a Catholic perspective. Yeah, like the 30-minute mark. Like some screen popped up on my thing saying, labeled as what was it? Not medical misinformation, but like some type of general like misinformation type of thing. You know what I mean? And it just literally booted me off. And so everyone was like texting me or emailing me saying, "Hey, did you get booted off?" I was like, "Yes, this is a first for me on TikTok." So we usually have good crowds. We usually have thousands of people show up for those shows in a live format. And I was like, nah. And then I got suspended after that. They said you can't do it till Sunday. So
that's so
So that's what I'm saying. Like they know, when you're onto something when they got a censor and they can't let you. Say something.
Well, it got so crazy when I was doing some of the early days recordings with Diamond on Oppenheimer Ranch on COVID during the recording, because we would record on either Skype or we'd record on Zoom.
Yeah.
And there were times during the recording, not live, just the recording, that it went down. And it was like at really weird moments when we were talking about CIA type, drops.
No, I had Charles Zenner on. I'm sure you know Charles is because he's Jewish too. Charles is that guy that predicts a lot of stuff, like analyzes things. And I had him on like 3 weeks ago, and I don't know where he was in the world. I'm assuming he was still in Israel somewhere. But it literally went down after 5 minutes, and he said he tried for an hour just to read it, and he couldn't. And I was like, well, I think we know the answer there. So, yeah, man, it happens on StreamYard even too. So,
yeah. Have you ever interviewed Shiva, Dr. Shiva?
I have not. Well, I've talked to him. But I remember the 2 times I tried getting him on, he was like an hour or an hour and a half late, and I'm like, bro, I know you're a doctor, but I mean, I'm probably just as busy as you are. I didn't say just as busy because I don't doctors really busy. I'm like, I usually do 4 or 5 shows a day, and I go from one show to the next. Like, it's not one of those things you just show up at will. I'm like, hey, let's record type thing. Like, I've got a schedule to kind of keep, and I didn't really hear from him.
Well, I was supposed to do an interview with him shortly after Diamond. Diamond was kind of the one that introduced Shiva to the world. I mean, at least the I wouldn't say the world, but to the alternative world, right? And then shortly after that, he started doing a bunch of shows. So he was scheduled to do a show with me, and I was still in Lower Manhattan at the time. All right, so this is early during the crisis. This is in March, probably, of 2020, and literally an hour before the show was supposed to go on, Lower Manhattan's power went down.
There you go.
And I wasn't able to reconnect. But here's the problem with Shiva that I have. All right, I have a couple problems. One, he's kind of cocky. He thinks he's above other people. All right, and the other thing is that I could be wrong on this, but my understanding was that he was born in India. Now, I could be wrong, all right? I'd have to double check that. So he's running for president, but he can't really be president because you have to be born as an American citizen.
All right. Yeah. No, I don't know that. Yeah.
Now, there are some provisions where if your parents are military and you're on a military base or on a ship, you would still be a citizen of the United States. And my understanding is that's exactly what happened with McCain. He was born on a ship, I thought. But you have to be born American. You can't be naturalized as through immigration. So I could be wrong, but I thought that he came from India as an immigrant.
I mean,
and so if he is running for president, people are donating to him. It's under false pretenses. Now, I got to double check my facts on that, but but it just and the thing is it's really strange. It's really, really strange. He's a smart guy, right? Right, but I've never saw anyone that said their name, comma, MIT PhD. There is no such thing as MIT PhD. There is such a thing as PhD. Being awarded from MIT. What he's doing is he's projecting. He's projecting that he has a PhD that was awarded from MIT, which is fine. But you don't put comma MIT PhD. There's no such thing.
Well, I mean, probably does. Well, yeah.
There's no such thing as MIT PhD as.
Right. It goes back to his ego. He wants to say, okay.
Right. Exactly. This is the point I'm making. Is that he thinks he's better than everybody, and then he constantly.
I definitely got that impression from.
Yeah, and then there's so it's either Dr. Shiva, or Dr. Shiva, comma PhD, or Shiva, comma PhD, but there's no such thing as comma MIT PhD. So there's that problem, and then he's always promoting that he was the founder of email, and I'll tell you, anyone that worked in corporate America, you don't want to promote that because that's just email hell. I mean, why do you want to promote to the American public and you want to be president of the United States, and it's questionable if you can even be president of the United States if you're not born here? Then why would you promote that you're the inventor of email that created email hell for corporate America? I mean, and there's no one that calls him off on it. He goes up on these channels and everyone just placates to him. And so now, he's on the circuit in the alternative world that's, promoting his presidency, but, he's one of these anti-Zionists, right? And that he's going to be so strict on Israel, and it's just and here again he's coming from a culture. I'm going to sound pretty harsh here. He's coming from a culture that literally that Rashi and many other commentary of the Bible and of Torah have said that if you want to know what actual idolatry was, you go to India. All right, and he's coming from a culture that is idolatrous. And he's going to be telling it how Israel to play in their sandbox, literally in their sandbox. I just think that here's another data point that suggests that if you're not on the right side, even if you're not ultra liberal, but if you're not on the right side, that the fallacies and the perspectives that individual have will start to crumble right in front of people. And I think Shiva, mark my words, Shiva is going to disintegrate.
Now, Paul, I'm taking a look at the time here. I didn't realize it was getting this late, and I got to get ready, I think, for a media appearance here with Rex in literally 5 minutes. So let's conclude here with some shameless self-promotion time. What can we help you promote? Thanks for stopping by again.
Thank you for having me. The ones that are listening, please go to my store. It's the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the different the health supplements I offer. We're going through cold season, so you want to get the nano silver gels and the nano silver liquids like the Health Max 35, and make sure you get the lozenges. I have lozenges and drops of different flavors, so get those. Make sure you put that gel on. It'll neutralize pathogens for 5 hours on your hands, around your mouth, your face, your nostrils, your nose, your ears, and pay attention to the protocol. I don't have time to go into the details of the protocol, the health protocol that I have, but follow it, and it'll improve your immune system and improve your health and slow down the aging process. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get those products. In addition, for the ones that are listening, I am censored just like Eric is, and every time I post on my big channel, the way YouTube works is that it brings down my subscribers by 5, 10 every time I post. I'm going to continue to post, but I need people to go to my channels and subscribe. Please go to Paul Cottrell on YouTube and subscribe to the big channel and all the other channels. All my videos have description links. You just click the link and subscribe to all of my 6 channels. But please help repopulate that large channel, because YouTube, because of the censorship, is bleeding that channel every time I post on it. And that's the channel that has all the, that was the original channel that had showed all the information on what was going on in the previous crisis with COVID. So, everyone, thank you for the support, and please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
Yeah, no, good stuff. I went to my YouTube. I haven't done anything on YouTube in quite some time, and I went back, and it looked like since the last time I looked, I'm like 2,000 down, and then I had to privatize all my videos because they were starting to pull videos from like 5, 7 years ago,
right? And
giving me X marks or check marks. So yeah, I just privatized.
And that's why I had to move a lot of my archive over to Brighteon to protect it.
Yep. All right, there's censorship. Hey, Dark Winter Script says it's only going to get worse. Wait till they start fining people, penalties, and it's going after people in the black suits. That's what it says. It's going to only get harsher. And it's not just going to be on the pandemic side of things. It'll be, anyone who comes up against climate change or abortion or whatever, all these Agenda 2030 stuff. So, Paul, thanks so much for joining us. And, folks, listen, we got 4 shows tomorrow for you. Until next time.